This video will contain heavy spoilers. Viewer discretion is advised. Turning Red is a touching and heartfelt movie all about periods. The story follows Mei, a 13-year-old Chinese girl. At first, she seems like she has life figured out, but out of nowhere, her body transforms. One day, Mei wakes up as a giant red panda. She feels anxious, bloated, extremely irritable, and my god, what's that smell? Pixar's use of red pandas as a stand-in for periods is 10 out of 10. Explaining the sensation of ovulating is honestly difficult, but everyone can understand immediately how horrifying it would be to wake up as a giant animal. Already, Turning Red is sending a powerful message, but it doesn't stop here. Our hero's mom, Ming, is set up as the antagonist to the plot. Her controlling ways constantly bog down Mei and make her feel otherized, although we begin to realize she's hurting too. Ming's life was hyper-controlled in a similar fashion. Both Mei and her mother lead their lives based on the fear that they have of their family. Using her lived experiences, our lovable red panda uses her pain to lead with love. Even though she's the youngest in the family, she fills them with perspective. Seeing this young kid break the mold is genuinely inspiring. Not to mention this movie's expert use of Chinese culture and color. Mei is torn between worlds, friends or family, change or stagnation, panda or no panda. This dichotomy is shown in the colors green and red, contrasting colors, meaning they are opposite on the color wheel. Not to mention that red is a very important color in Chinese culture. Red often symbolizes vitality, happiness, and good fortune. While periods can be horrible, they mark a big turning point in our lives. We get to have more freedom and choice regarding our bodies and self-expression.
My panda, my choice, Mom.
Intertwining this information with cultural significance is so good for the audience. We can teach our daughters about their bodies at an early age using our shared collective history, which is so powerful. Final thing I want to mention is how much psychology there is in Turning Red. We empathize with how anxious Mei feels when her period first starts. Pixar creates tension to further our empathy. The resolution for the film could only happen by learning from suffering. So today, I wanted to go over all the details that make Turning Red an incredible Pixar movie and art piece. I also want to talk about the educational value this movie has for future generations. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you'll always see our latest content. Mei Lin Lee seems like the perfect child. Excellent grades, extracurriculars, a group of friends. She hustles hard and knows exactly where she's headed. Mei and her mother Ming teach about their family's culture in a temple in Toronto. We meet her group of friends, Miriam, Priya, and Abby. All of the imagery harkens back to the early 2000s of the Backstreet Boys and Twilight. Like every 13-year-old, Mei wants to watch her favorite boy band with her buddies, Four Town. Keep note of that number because it's important. At night, Mei starts feeling strange. She starts fantasizing about boys in ways she never had before. Feeling embarrassed, she hides under the bed. The lighting is doing the heavy lifting in this scene. As Mei gets progressively more excited, the color turns a darker shade of red. Her mom finds out about her perviness and embarrasses her in front of everyone. While sleeping, she has a weird sex dream, filled with red imagery. The hormonal changes in our bodies can even interfere with our sleep patterns. After all this embarrassment, Mei wakes up the next day, but things feel different. She's bloated. Her body aches. She's disoriented. And so angry. All these sensations are oh too familiar. Unexpectedly, she starts her period, which puts her family into a panic. Plus, she has to go to school. Mei tries to hide her physical changes, but her mom makes things difficult. Helicopter parenting is really harmful, and we can see its effects in real time. Overwhelmed by embarrassment, the panda gets out. Ming finally tells Mei about what's going on in her body. Rather than go into the nitty-gritty of female anatomy, she tells the story of Sun Yi. She traded in her human form to become a panda to win in battle. Panda has been passed down through generations to the women in their family. Mei finds out that the best way to control her feelings is to think of the people she values most. She is forced into family traditions she wants no part of. Our hero likes some parts of the panda, and so do her friends, but her family wants to seal this part of her identity away. Torn between worlds, Mei has to choose between her friends and her family. Mei starts selling videos and pictures of her panda to earn money for the concert. Some imagery harkens back to how it feels to be a young girl. So many girls are sad in school that their pandas haven't happened yet. When a woman starts her period, it's a big deal. Women who start early can become hypersexualized, but late bloomers deal with harassment as well. Pixar truly shows how much pressure is involved with being a young woman. Even though Mei's grades are tanking some, she's having the time of her life with her friends. Mei's extended family comes to put extra weight on her about the ceremony. Her grandma and her aunties ruthlessly pressure her. Mei buckles and ditches her friends. The ceremony begins, but she doesn't want this life. Rather than live how others want, she carves her own path. She realizes that her friends have her real best interest in mind. Her mother is infuriated, and her panda is released. As Kaiju Ming rampages around Canada, together with friends, family, and the angelic voices of Four Town, they reseal Ming's panda. Mei enters her mom's consciousness to reveal a shocking twist. All of the controlling tendencies came from her own lack of control. Ming is hurting too. Even though she conceals it, the pain of expectations eats away at her self-worth. After seeing her granddaughter's beautiful spirit, Ming's mother realizes the error of her ways. Ming tries one final time to have her daughter see her point of view. Although Mei is unwavering in who she is. Wanting to be better than her mother, Ming tells her daughter she loves her no matter what. The scene with Sun Yi's spirit is so beautiful. Mei is second-guessing her decision, but her ancestor lets her know she's perfect just the way she is. After accepting her panda side, life looks even better than before. She is happy with herself, her family, and her friends. Even though her bodily changes were a tumultuous process, Mei is ultimately happier through her suffering. The first thing we need to talk about is how much educational value there is in turning red. In many parts of the world, sex education is lacking. Many men and women are unaware of the physical changes their bodies go through. In places with less than adequate resources, media can step in as an educational tool. Turning red illustrates what periods feel like, the ways they change our body, and our mental health. Demonstrating these sensations on screen can be an eye-opening experience for the audience. Men and women's bodies develop in unique ways as they mature, so our physical differences allow for unique life happenings. My boyfriend can describe to me how much it hurts to get hit in the balls. Similarly, I can describe how much pain I'm in because of my period. But in both instances, we only receive information. In turning red, this divide is resolved in a unique way. Anthropomorphizing periods is a brilliant way to build empathy. Imagine one day you go to sleep and awaken like a panda. Your body hurts, you feel bloated, and nauseous. Even the slightest comment can set you off. Anxiousness and fear permeate your body. Not to mention, you're upset that you didn't ask for any of these changes. Everyone can relate to these experiences. To wake up and feel horrible. Not wanting to do anything, but pushing through regardless. Seeing Mei deal with these issues can build empathy in a unique way. Whenever you see Mei in panda form, just know that that experience isn't far removed for other women in your life. Plus, we don't get the luxury of being a kid. Many of us have to go to work in panda form. Turning red also does a great job of building physical anxiety. We feel anxious watching certain parts of the movie. Everything feels like it's bubbling up tension-wise. Another sensation that is common when having a period. Even some of the more visceral imagery showcases the struggles women face. Unfortunately, women don't always have pads or tampons on hand, and unexpected accidents happen. Bleeding through a pair of clothes is a similar yet more embarrassing feeling than dropping clumps of hair. Another way of periods impact our body is in regards to our mental health. All these complex changes take a toll on us. When I first started my period, I began valuing different things in my life. Dating became more interesting, and other things less so. I also stressed about different life pressures than before, feeling super anxious about things that didn't matter previously, or waking up feeling incredibly angry. Plus, bodily changes aren't always beneficial to our mental health. Getting acne or looking awkward can be a killer when you're a young girl. We might feel self-conscious or shameful about our bodies, but these emotions are normal. Turning red is so powerful because it lets us understand the struggles associated with periods both physically and emotionally. The real-world implications are massive as well. Men who don't understand periods well can get more perspective. Young women can also learn more about their bodily changes. Not to mention, turning red fights the stigma that periods are inherently bad or gross. Mei's panda side is a lot to deal with, but it's also a constant source of happiness. She's able to be herself in ways she previously couldn't. Her panda form gives her more courage to stand up to her toxic family dynamic. Periods suck, but they can be amazing things as well. Also, it wouldn't hurt if we all practice a little more patience when the panda is released. Now what if I told you the primary color in the film Turning Red is red? I know what you're thinking, but it's true. On the color wheel, the opposite of red is green. In ancient Chinese philosophy, there is the idea of yin and yang, black and white, good and evil, contrasting forces of nature essentially. Through this constant tension, a state of harmony can be reached. Turning Red is a movie filled with duality, Mei's human form versus her panda form, her friends or her family. Should she live by others' expectations or carve her own path? Red and green are colors that were chosen for a reason. Red represents one half of Mei's life, where green represents the other. When our lovable panda carves her own path or leads with her feelings, red takes over the screen. But when her life is more structured or family-oriented, green is right around the corner. Mei is a character torn between worlds, and the diverse color palette embodies this idea. Yin and Yang are all about finding the balance between the two halves, which is an entire microcosm of the film. Our hero's life is pretty rough, dealing with the heavy social pressures of family expectations versus the love of your closest friends, constraining the wilder side of yourself to make others happy, or let down the people who matter most to you. Not only is this plight relatable, but it can destroy our lives. Living how others want is extremely taxing. All these conflicting values can make us feel like we are being torn in half, but the inverse is also true. Trying to fulfill everyone's wishes, we can lose our own identities. Both of these instances are antithetical to true happiness. Although Pixar offers us a poignant solution to this trying problem, our best bet is to try and mold these seemingly disparate two halves into a manageable whole. My friends and my family can get along if it's under the right circumstances. I can carve my own path while still respecting the wishes of others. In the last section, we talked about how these two colors contrasted. In this section, I want to talk about the cultural significance of these two colors and how they impact the film. In Chinese culture, red generally symbolizes happiness, good fortune, and success. Green embodies healing, health, and fertility. If we think about these colors in relation to Mei, then the story starts to come together. The use of red demonstrates Mei's feelings around her transformation. She likes the new Mei. Ever since she's been selling panda pics and hanging out with her friends, she's been so happy, having the time of her life. Fortune is all she knows. Green, on the other hand, represents the relationship she has with her family. In the beginning, Mei has a very disassociated connection to her relatives. She loves them, but at a distance. Rather than appreciate their personalities, she feels confined and small. Toxic family dynamics suck, and it can take a lot of work to mend them. If green represents fertility, healing, and health, these themes are present in turning red. Mei can't fix the family's perceptions initially. They think periods are bad and should be hidden. Green inherently opposes the existence of red, but healing is a necessary part of the process. Our hero helps through healing. We know that Ming has been through a lot. The heavy weight of expectation has been eating away at her soul. Mei could have easily walked away, but she leads with love. By healing her mom, she also heals her family's harmful misconceptions. Fertility and health in this instance is the blossoming of a new kind of relationship. Colors are so important to us in our lives in unique ways. Different colors mean different things to different groups of people. I love that Pixar took the time to build the world and story based on colors that have great meaning in Chinese culture. Turning Red is filled to the brim with psychology. For starters, we can see how much social pressures can impact our mental health. Mei is a great character study into the effects of letting down others. Expectations can be a great thing if they are a tool that helps motivate us, but harmful expectations make us feel bad about who we are. When Ming is having Mei pray to her ancestors, this is probably a good expectation. She's taking time to focus on something outside of herself in a relaxed setting. If we contrast this to her mom's controlling tendencies, we can clearly see the difference. When Ming becomes overbearing, Mei just feels horrible about the person she is. Is my way of life not justified? Valuing expectations is an important process that Turning Red tackles with grace. Sometimes we have to stand up to our social resources for our own well-being. This film is also great at building empathy towards those of us who have periods. When the panda comes out, there is this constant anxiety that permeates the air. Everyone knows what it feels like to be gawked at, and it sucks. Turning Red gives us more insight into how many social pressures women face. At its core, this movie is an empathy-driven work. Take Ming and Mei's tumultuous relationship. Think about all the pain and hardship our hero has gone through. She feels self-conscious because of her mother's controlling ways, even starting to dislike her new self. As audience members, the movie does a good job of building resentment, but Mei lets all of this stored anguish go when she realizes her mom dealt with the same circumstances. Our hero's pain humanizes her in a meaningful fashion. Using her sadness, she relates to Ming's plight. Another powerful message Pixar drives home is that empathy begets empathy. When Mei leads with love, it inspires her grandmother to do the same. One idea that Pixar and Disney have focused on recently is the idea of intergenerational trauma. So what does this mouthload of a phrase mean? Essentially, it's the idea that a past family trauma can cause someone to transfer a harmful behavior onto someone else. In Coco, Miguel is forbidden from playing the music because of his family history. In Encanto, Isabella and Luisa must live a certain way thanks to their abuela's controlling tendencies. Or in Turning Red, Mei's life is under constant scrutiny because Ming lived the same way. All these instances have one idea in common. The pain of one generation causes the inadvertent pain of the subsequent ones. In psychology, transference is the concept that we might transfer our harmful expectations or feelings onto someone else. While this might not sound like much on paper, Turning Red demonstrates the potential harm. To better understand, let's dissect Ming's character. Her mother seems like a menacing figure. Living in fear and sadness, Ming comports to her mother's wants. In the flashback scenes, Ming seems like a broken person, saddened by the world and her existence. She only knows one way of life, so she transfers those tenets onto her daughter. You must behave, get good grades, guarantee yourself a good career. I had to do these things. Mei and Ming demonstrate to us how much harm can come from intergenerational trauma. Both of their lives are reprehensibly harmed by their parental figures. Pixar breaks the fourth wall to some extent with stories like this. Many people experience these hardships. Portraying struggles with familial expectations on the big screen can teach us about our own interactions. We can better value our harmful versus positive expectations. Also, we can help to break the cycle of trauma by leading with empathy. One thing I love about Turning Red is the social commentary in regards to culture and family. We already talked about the significance of the color choices, but this is only one component. Take for example the number 4. In Chinese culture, the number 4 is the American equivalent to the number 13. Seen as an inherently unlucky number, many buildings skip the 4th floor entirely. But in Turning Red, 4 is actually a form of good luck. Mei, including her friends, makes a group of 4. They ultimately save her from her family's harsh criticisms. Ming is also saved by her mom and her 4 sisters. 4-Town is necessary to help seal the kaiju panda. Even the grandma's panda spirit is saved in a 4-Town keychain. Also, as a quick tangent, the panda chant mixed with 4-Town's song demonstrates the beauty of mixing cultures. The empowering of the number 4 is similar to Mei's journey. Her panda is thought of as a curse. This affliction changed her body for the worse. As our hero accepts her new form, her conceptualization of identity changes. She begins loving her panda side, proud of the person she's become. 4 or 13 can be lucky numbers as well as cursed. Everything is based on our own perception. Helicopter parenting is another factor in the equation. Ming constantly hovers around Mei, ensuring she's performing at max capacity. Chinese families prioritize education heavily because it is a means to access opportunity. Similar to the structure of the US education system, access to information is hierarchical. Unequal distribution of wealth can be offset somewhat by attaining a degree. Not to mention Asian immigrants have an added pressure of the model minority stereotype, which adds to the cultural pressure of education. Ming's obsession with her daughter's academic achievement isn't bad faith, but it's misplaced. Mei doesn't need to have perfect grades to be happy. She needs support. Education is important, but fixating on anything in excess can be detrimental to those we love. But my favorite cultural elements come in the form of allegory. Using a historical figure, like Sun Yi, is such a great way to explain periods. No one wants to hear the grosser details of ovulation, but everyone loves a powerful narrative. Mixing education with culture can help us all learn about our bodies in engaging ways. Also, it makes the idea of a period more digestible to a younger audience. If someone told me as a kid that I'm going to bleed vigorously from my body, I'd have a heart attack, which someone did, and I did. But if somebody told me that the physical changes that I will have to endure will make me similar to an ancient warrior panda, then that's a different story. Mei breaks the mold in Turning Red in a meaningful way. One thing that's sad about this movie is the family's conceptualization of red pandas. At the movie's resolution, I wanted all the women to stay in panda form, but everyone hides that part of themselves besides Mei. Initially, I found this ending to be a disappointing message, but upon further inspection, I think it says a lot about our culture. Mei's family feels that the panda side of them is inherently bad or wrong, an untamed beast that they can't let out under any circumstances. This idea is very similar to how many women feel about their bodies. Many women feel self-conscious about talking about periods or their physical health. The stigma that periods are gross is so destructive to both men and women. Mei's family demonstrates the harm associated. All the women in her family are self-conscious about their panda. Turning Red helps break the stigma by highlighting the positives of the negatives. Being a panda can be pretty painful, but it also lets us have access to freedoms we didn't have before. Mei isn't able to carve her own path until she goes through her transformation. Or how about when Mei starts selling panda pics or begins twerking? Ming sees this as a horrible crass offense, but Mei's dad sees his daughter having a good time with friends. Stigmatizing women's bodies also impacts men greatly in negative ways. Women who are shamed about their periods and sexuality are less likely to want to engage sexually, open up about their wants, and share their experiences as a whole. Turning Red combats this idea, empowering women in a meaningful way. Periods aren't a curse or a horrible reality that women face. Some big monstrous panda we have to constantly push away. They are a natural part of our bodily development. Destigmatizing women's bodies can help us all in the long run. Thanks for checking out this video. Turning Red is a powerful movie that I highly recommend you check out if you haven't already. This film beautifully intertwines culture, color, and women to tell a captivating story. Pixar took a bold step in making a movie like this, which I think deserves praise. Sex education is severely lacking. In places where resources aren't readily available, media can be a powerful instructional tool. Watching this film, we get better insight into the lived experiences of many women, the cycle of intergenerational trauma, and how our culture impacts our perception. Mei's journey illustrates the psychological destructiveness of harmful expectations, but most importantly, this film shows us the value of leading with love. We all have the capacity to empathize with others' pains, and periods are no exception. What did you think about this breakdown? Did Turning Red give you a new insight or perspective? I'd love to hear from you.